What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Sunday Drive. So, quick announcement before we get started. For those of you guys who are following the manual swap series, that's basically it. I'm basically done. There are 0 more videos to post. Well, there's 1 more video, and that is dealing with the check engine light. I will do that video at some point, but aside from that, the series is complete. Super hype, put a lot of freaking work into that series, and it was fun, I won't lie, and I hope it's useful to some of you guys. So I have it in a full playlist. I'll leave that link in the description. And so for you guys who have been waiting for me to finish the series, to start your swaps or do whatever, it's done. So today we're going to talk again about the downward spiral that got my 1998 M3 to basically where it is. So I finally get the cylinder head back on after it's been machined, figure out the vanos, all that stuff, get the manifold back on, smoke tested, no vacuum leaks, everything is on properly, the cylinder head bolts are all torqued right, the vanos is on, it's timed properly, and the cylinder head had a tiny little crack between an intake and an exhaust valve on cylinder number 3. And so when I was talking with the machine shop guy, he said that it could either have no issues or it could misfire on first startup, and to my luck it misfired on first startup. So I'm like, oh shit, right? And again, it was a cylinder 3 misfire. I pulled the code on it. So now I gotta find a brand new freaking cylinder head for this thing. So I run down to Ecology Auto Parts, or it was Ecology at the time, now it's LKQ, down in Oceanside, and I found a nice 328, pulled the cylinder head off of that one. And they're like 60 bucks at LKQ, which is freaking nice, so they're super cheap. And I didn't even go down there planning to pull a cylinder head. I just went down there to see what cars they had, and they had the perfect one. So I was like, dude, freaking send it. So I ripped the head off. I take it down to the machine shop, and I'm looking at it in the parking lot, and I see like another tiny little crack, and I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. And I was like, well, I hope that's not enough. And the machine shop guy, the technician, comes out, looks at it, he's like, oh yeah, this one's fucked. So I'm like, sick. So then I take that one back, return it, because I bought the warranty, of course, get my money back, and then I found a crashed 328i convertible. The rear end was all freaking crunched as hell, and I dropped the old one off. This was like in the period of 1 day, so I dropped that one off at like 4 o'clock, so I didn't have enough time to go pull that head. So then I went back the next weekend, ripped that head out, and then sent it in for machine work, and it was perfect. So I get that cut, they check all the valves are seating well, the head is decked. And so I had another head gasket, another set of head bolts, and ripped the freaking drop top to pieces. And so I slapped that cylinder head on, fire the bitch up, and as soon as I fire it up, it just fucking purrs like a kitten. Oh, it was beautiful. It was just, oh, it was so good. And I was so freaking hyped. Oh my god. So I get the cooling system fully bled, and it's never run this well before. No misfires, it was just butter smooth, nothing, just no issues, just, oh, it was perfect. The car ran so well, and I drove it for like 3 or 4 months, just 0 problems. It was beautiful. I was so hyped to finally have my car back, and I was hyped to have it running properly. And then like 4 months in, I'm driving, and I started hearing like, not so much a grinding sound, but sort of like, it sounded like something got loose. It almost sounded like something was loose in the oil pan, because I just hear some shit like bouncing around, like, you know, it was very metallic. It sounded like a gear or something had gone loose. And so I'm just like trying to think what that would be, what would be causing that, because everything I did, I torqued every bolt that I put on. I did the head gasket 100%, and it made that noise for like 2 drives. So I did that from when I was driving home from work. I went to K1 Speed with a couple of my friends and met them there, and it did it on the drive home from work and on the way to K1. It just made that really metallic grinding sound. And so we get to K1, we're having a good time, we're all racing and shit, and we go to leave, and my car is not starting. Like I just turn the key and it just goes woo. And so I'm like, okay, right? Like what the hell? And so we bump start it, pop second gear, and it fires right up and runs perfectly fine. So what had happened was the starter gear didn't retract and just caught on the flywheel and just spun the shit out of it and fucked it all up. I'm like, alright, great, I need a new starter. And right around that time is actually when I started the channel. So the starter replacement video, the original starter replacement video you guys got, not the one for the manual swap, but the original one is from the starter gear sticking. And the intake manifold removal video is also from that, because I had to pull the intake manifold off. Thought I'd start the channel out with a couple of DIYs. So you guys got the intake manifold removal, and you got the starter replacement video. In addition to that, on my drive to K1, I heard another kind of metallic-y clicking sound. And so thinking it was the starter ring gear still stuck, I didn't think much about it. So when I put the new starter in, I got the intake manifold back on, got it all bled, I fired it up, and the bitch is just misfiring off the charts. Cylinder 6 this time. And so I'm like, alright, what the hell is going on with this damn motor? And so I pull a compression test on all the other cylinders. I think they're all like 95 to 200 was the range, and then cylinder 6 was at like 80 psi or 90 psi. So I'm like, what the fuck, man? How did I just lose compression by replacing a starter? And so I'm all confused as shit, right? And so I do a leak down test on it, and it's leaking from cylinder 6 into the intake manifold. So I'm like, what the hell? Why is it leaking compression? Because I talked to the machinist and he said all the valves were seating perfectly fine. You know, why would it be leaking? And if the head gasket was bad again, it wouldn't be leaking into the intake manifold. That's all valve seats. So I pull the intake manifold off and I take a flashlight and I look down through the cylinder head, and one of the intake valves is like not straight. It's like kind of crooked to the side. And I'm like, well, that definitely can't be good. So I look down the spark plug well into the cylinder, and the piston's like, I can see fresh metal on the piston. So I'm like, oh, fuck. So I pull the cylinder head again and then send the head back into the machine shop. And the guy told me that part of the valve guide like snapped off, fell into the cylinder and just started bouncing around. And you can totally see that on the piston. It's all freaking chewed up right there. And that time when I pulled the cylinder head was when I did the actual DIY series on it. So the cylinder head gasket DIY series up until now basically is me tearing down that motor. And so they did a full valve job on the cylinder head. They put new valve guides in and re-cleaned the head. And that's basically it. From there, the head has just been sitting. It's in the back of the convertible right now, and I haven't touched it because I'm poor. And because that piston was so chewed up, I sort of am using that as an excuse to do a full rebuild on the motor. I don't know, something about that motor just got bad juju written all over it, so I'm not even going to touch it. And so that's basically where the Slutbucket Turbo Build series begins, is by me ripping out that bottom end after it's freaking fried. So in the description, I'll also leave a link to that playlist if you guys want to check it out. I think it's only 4 videos so far. It's basically me pulling the motor, and that's about it. The rest of the story is unwritten yet. But now that this car is manual swap, that is my #1 priority, is getting that car back on the road. And you guys will see the rest of the story as it unfolds. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep it fresh, and I will see you guys later.
Search for you.